Part 16. The Age of Rebirth, the fake daughter relies on cultivation to become bigger and stronger. Author, Laughing Charm. Chapter 151. Shen Yun followed these people with his consciousness and found that these people were walking around with tools and looking at them. The people they were recruiting were also very strange. It was not that they were only looking for young people. Instead, look at the tool. If the person reacts when touching the tool, then no matter whether they are male, female, older, or younger, they will accept it. Shen Yun looked at these people followed by several cheerful old people and 2 or 3 who looked like children. It seems that these people have found a lot of people today. Sister, I asked, the third brother didn't come back last night, and the people next to him don't know where they are. What should we do now? Shen Jian looked sad. At this moment, he looked at Shen Yun and thought about Shen Yun's magical methods just now. At this moment, he could only place his hope on Shen Yun. Shen Yun noticed with his spiritual consciousness that the group must have recruited enough people, and this time he turned around and walked towards the outside of the village in the city. You wait at home, I'll go out and take a look. After Shen Yun said that, he walked directly towards those people. Regardless of whether they were these people or not, Shen Yun had to follow them to eliminate them. Hey, sister, I'll go with you. Shen Jian chased after him, and by the time he locked the door, Shen Yun had already left without a trace. Shen Yun chased him outside and saw several people driving the newly recruited people into a dilapidated minibus. But the few people recruited did not get on the bus. Shen Yun's heart moved and he walked out directly. Brothers, are you recruiting people? Seeing the minibus leave, Shen Yun went up to greet it. A few people raised their eyes and glanced at Shen Yun, and they suddenly became interested. They looked at each other and said with a smile. Yes, sister, we are hiring, but you must meet the conditions, the man said and happily came forward. What are the conditions? Shen Yun asked with interest. Come here, touch this with your little hands. As long as you pass the exam, we will take you to work right away. The salary is 350 yuan a month. This is a high-paying job. The man directly took out the tools in his pocket. Shen Yun could see clearly what this was this time. A simple spiritual device. Shen Yun had seen this kind of thing in his previous life, but it had been revised several times. He didn't expect to see something like this now. Shen Yun always thought that this thing was researched by the country, but seeing this thing appear in the hands of these people, Shen Yun was a little unsure. With excitement on his face, he stretched out his hand, and 5 small colored dots lit up directly on the spirit detector. A few people looked at each other, and the smiles on their faces dropped a little, maybe thinking that Shen Yun's qualifications were relatively poor. How about it, can I go to work? Shen Yun seemed to have not seen the changes in the expressions of several people. It's okay, but your qualifications are relatively poor, so your salary may be a little lower, but you are so good looking, don't worry, my brothers will definitely fight for a good salary for you. Several people discussed it for a while and then Shen Yun said. Shen Yun heard them saying that if they were beautiful, they could give them to the boss, etc. His face did not change, so he pretended not to have heard them. If they dare to send it, they dare to go themselves. Then they will meet their boss. Sure, it doesn't matter if the salary is lower. As long as I can make money, I'm willing to do it, Shen Yun said firmly. Okay, then come with us. After saying this, the man led Shen Yun forward directly. Let's go over there. Where is the workplace? Shen Yun asked as he walked, like a normal girl who is concerned about her future work. It's not far from here. We'll drive to the parking place and take you there in a while. Don't worry, we won't let you walk over. The patience of several people towards Shen Yun was quite good. Sure enough, after a while, he took Shen Yun to a small courtyard. Shen Yun took note of this place, and like a fool, he got in the car and left with a few people. Along the way, the cars with several people drove farther and farther, and the places became more and more remote. Is there a factory here? Shen Yun asked from behind. Don't worry, there must be a factory. If there wasn't a factory, what would we do with so many people here? Are you crazy about being rich? It's just that in order to save costs, our boss opened the factory in a remote place. Now the land here is very big. It's expensive. If you open a factory in a remote place, you can pay more to the workers. Otherwise, you can go to the factory in the south and ask which factory pays more than 300 yuan a month. So don't worry, we are here. I will take you to make a fortune, several people explained to Shen Yun carefully. If Shen Yun was a little girl with no knowledge at all, she would have believed their lies. This time, even though she knew what these people were saying was false, she still nodded, pretending to be ignorant. The car drove all the way and it took more than an hour to get to the place. Chen Yun looked at the barren land around him. There were no people living here, and the roads were not very good. There was just a dilapidated small factory building. There was a small hill next to the factory building. There were many fruit trees planted on it. They were growing quite well. Those who knew it thought this was an orchard. There were not many people in sight, and a minibus that had come before was parked in front of him. Shen Yun recognized it as the same bus that had taken people there. But no one saw anyone at this time. Shen Yun cast his sight directly on the hillside. The little girl has a good eye and knows where we make money. Come on, come with me to meet the person in charge. Several people also got out of the car and walked towards the dilapidated factory building with Shen Yun. Are we going to grow fruit and sell it in the future? Don't ask so much, you will know when the time comes. Several people had no intention of giving Shen Yun an answer. Shen Yun stopped talking after hearing this and looked around. There were a few people in the dilapidated factory building, but not many. Where are all the people they brought here? Is fourth brother here? Shen Yun's consciousness couldn't help but look towards the hillside over there. There was no one on the hillside. Shen Yun wanted to see if there was a cave under the hill. As a result, my spiritual sense could not penetrate further. The last time I encountered this situation was in the lake in the Shanhe Shiji Tuesday. It seems that there is a mystery hidden in this hillside. Shen Yun put this matter aside, calmed down his aura, and followed these people directly upstairs. When he saw their so-called boss, Shen Yun was stunned. He was a cultivator, and he looked like he was at the third level of Qi training. Is this person from a special department? Shen Yun couldn't help but guess. The spiritual energy on his body is very pure, and it seems to have been cultivated through normal means, but his cultivation level should have just been improved, and it is not very solid yet. Why are you guys here? Didn't I tell you to find more people? The benefits will not be lost to you. The woman looked a little unhappy when she saw these people. Boss, look at how this girl is doing. Didn't you say you would find someone pretty to work as a secretary for the boss of the head office? Do you think this will work? The man with the spiritual device said flatteringly. The age of rebirth, the fake daughter relies on cultivation to become bigger and stronger. Author, Laughing Charm. Chapter 152. Chapter 152, 152, Lamb to be slaughtered. Hearing this, the woman finally opened her closed eyes. His seductive eyes were cast directly on Shen Yun. Seeing Shen Yun's face, he couldn't help but frown, but in the end he suppressed something and said to several people, "What's going on with this man? This girl came here to look for a job. We measured it and it showed 5 points. Although the condition is not very good, she looks really good. If you send her to the head office like this, you are very capable, boss." "Where are you going to send me?" Shen Yun looked slightly worried. "Don't be afraid, we are going to send you to a wealthy place. From now on, you will be able to live well and drink spicy food, and you will no longer have to live the life of working as you do now," the man who brought Shen Yun over said in a good voice. "Why are you talking so much nonsense with her? Why don't you hurry up and get back to work? The boss is pressing her hard. Hurry up and find someone to come over and finish the work here." This way we will all be better off. The woman sat up straight with a cold face. Looking at the way these men can't walk when they see beautiful girls, it turns out that men are all virtuous. Boss, when you send the person back, can you have a few nice words with the boss? When things here are over, we also want to develop a great cause with the boss, several people said flatteringly. The woman looked at several people up and down, with unconcealed disgust in her eyes. Let's talk about this later. Besides, the boss has never seen such a beauty. It's hard to say whether this person can close his eyes. You bring the person over to work first, and I'll contact the boss first, and then send the person over if necessary. The few people were talking to themselves and did not pay attention to Shen Yun on the side. In their eyes, Shen Yun was just a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. When they arrived at this place, they didn't think Shen Yun, a girl, could do anything. Okay, boss, we will take the person away, and you will have to work hard for the rest. Don't worry, we will go back and look for the person in a while. Several people seemed to have not seen the woman's disgust and still said with smiles on their faces. Shen Yun did not resist and walked out directly with a few people. Who is she? If she doesn't have some strength, who would want to see her face? Several people complained in a low voice after they went downstairs. Okay, stop talking. Aren't you working under someone else's hand now? Besides, this woman is very powerful. Be careful if she hears it. If she puts on your little shoes later, it will be more of a loss than the gain. The person next to him hurriedly said, persuaded. Is this female boss of yours very powerful? She looks similar to me in stature, Shen Yun asked casually. What's so great? There's someone behind it, the man who just complained said angrily. Okay, be careful what you say. Don't open your mouth and make nonsense if you don't know. You think people are just like you, so you have a bad mouth. The man holding the spiritual device heard what he said and quickly stopped. Several people stopped talking when they heard what this man said. Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. I'll live a good life for you in the future. Knowing too much will do you no good. After stopping the man turned to look at Shen Yun and warned. Then I have to know where I want to work in the future, right? You are working here now. If you are a lucky person, who knows, I will send you to work there. The man pointed to a place and said to Shen Yun. That's not the place we came from, but rather like the port city on the other side. Shen Yun wrote down the place. It seemed that the boss here might not be from the mainland. Brother, let's take people to work quickly, otherwise the boss will rush us again, the person next to me said at the side. The few people didn't hesitate and took Shen Yun directly to a hidden place next to the hillside. Shen Yun looked around and saw a door on the ground over there, which looked like the cover of a cellar. A man went over and opened the door. There was a stone slab inside. The man reached out and knocked on the door. Shen Yun's consciousness has passed through the stone door and extended directly in. The hillside blocked off his spiritual consciousness, but this door could not. Shen Yun did not notice this direction just now and missed it. Now his spiritual consciousness directly penetrated in and saw the underground passages extending in all directions. Looking at the height, people walking inside can only bend down. Spiritual consciousness can only be extended in the corridor. After knocking on the door, I heard the creaking of the stone slab starting to move. Then a strong man with a pale face appeared at the door. What's going on? The strong man's tone was very bad. Brother Liang, I'll give you someone. The man quickly took out a cigarette from his pocket and handed it over. Brother Liang inside took the cigarette and looked at Shen Yun. Suddenly, my eyes were filled with disgust. Why is it a woman again? Every day she is either a woman, an old man or a child, or just killing chickens for nothing. Can you find someone who can do the work? Brother Liang's tone was full of dissatisfaction. The man glanced at the pale strong man in front of him and said with a smile, Brother Liang, there is nothing we can do about this. The boss has strict requirements, and we try our best to choose the stronger ones among those who meet the conditions. Look at this person, he is very good. Could you please send him to work with the people the boss likes? Okay, be careful next time and find someone who can do it. Come with me, people. Close the door when you leave. Brother Liang said and walked inside. Follow me quickly. I've found a good place for you. Go in and wait for news. We don't have idle people here, the man said, pushing Shen Yun in and immediately closing the stone slab. Shen Yun turned around and walked forward with Brother Liang in front of him. The farther in, the narrower it became. Shen Yun didn't know how he had been involved with the cave in his life. Not long after he came up from the southwest, a new one came. Follow this road and keep going forward. When you see people, you will arrive at the place. This is a tool. Our work has requirements. If we can't dig out 10 stones a day, we can't even think about eating. Don't even think about escaping. I am not a vegetarian. When the time comes, I will die down here quietly, and no one will know. Brother Liang finished explaining his work situation and then made a vicious threat. Shen Yun looked at the gun in his hand, then at his triangular eyes full of malice, then took a rake from the ground and walked down. It looked like this was a mine. Through his spiritual observation, Shen Yun roughly understood what kind of mine it was. I didn't expect that there is a spirit stone mine in this place. You can't feel it from the outside. Once inside, your spiritual sense can not only see the spirit stones inside the stones, but also feel that the spiritual energy is much stronger than outside. No wonder the people here are all with spiritual roots. If ordinary people come here to mine, the muscles in their bodies will be burst within a few days. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Age of Rebirth, the fake daughter relies on cultivation to become bigger and stronger. Author, Laughing Charm. Chapter 153. Chapter 153, 153, An Unlucky Family. Shen Yun bent forward and walked forward. The dark mine tunnel did not affect her at all. This mine tunnel was dug manually. It was full of pits and the stones next to it were also very hard. Shen Yun tried it with a rake and it felt a little jarring in his hands. Put away the rake and continue walking down. Not far away, my spiritual sense felt that there was someone below. Shen Yun quickened his pace, and after a while, he saw a person lying low, and there were 2 drowsy people next to him. They seemed to be in bad condition. When he arrived at the place, Shen Yun could clearly see the faces of several people. Third brother, how are you? Shen Yun didn't expect to meet the 2 Shen brothers as soon as he arrived here. Both of them seemed to be in poor condition. Shen Hong was still fine, but Shen Hong was unconscious now. You are, so and so. Shen Hong's voice was a little unbelievable. Your family is really good. It's really unlucky that the brothers and sisters of this family are gathered here. The man lying on the ground next to him heard what the 2 people said and said with a smile. Neither Shen Hong nor Shen Yun had time to pay attention to the man next to them. Shen Yun walked directly in front of Shen Hong, who was lying there and didn't know who was going on. Why are you here? Who asked you to come? Aren't you studying in Beijing? Shen Hong said anxiously. I happened to be going home. I found out that my 4th brother was missing, so I came here with Shen Jian. Shen Yun answered while checking Shen Hong's status. Shen Hong was in a very bad condition. He had lost blood and suffered multiple fractures on his body, and he had fallen into a coma. How can my family let you come over? You are a girl, what can you do? Shen Hong, who had never liked to talk, was also anxious this time. I wanted to stand up, but my legs failed me and I sat down directly. You hurry up and leave. Your 4th brother and I are injured and can't run away. You hurry up and leave. Don't be here. These are not good people. Shen Hong couldn't stand up, so he quickly urged Shen Yun. Don't try too hard. I've run away several times. This is the end. I can't run away even as a grown man. Look at your sister. Is she a match for the strong man with a gun outside? When the man heard several people talking, he also propped himself up and half-lead. Yes, I can't leave. Whatever I do, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have called back, Shen Hong said, looking at his brother lying on the ground, and then at Shen Yun. Tears flowed down unconsciously. A sense of powerlessness filled his whole body. At this moment, he felt that he was a sinner. He failed to save his brother and even got his sister into the trap. Third brother, don't blame yourself. I came here on my own initiative. Now that I'm here, I'm sure. If you want to go out, just be quiet first. I'll check on fourth brother first. Shen Yun looked at Zhonghong, who was in self-blame over there, said quickly. Then he carefully reconnected Shen Hong's broken hand and leg bones. Use your spiritual consciousness to carefully feel that there is no misalignment, and then carefully put it aside. Looking at the soaked clothes on his belly, Shen Yun opened it and saw a small hole in his belly. I felt it carefully and found that it was not caused by bullets or sharp objects, but rather like water injuries. There were faint traces of magic left on it. It should have been caused by a cultivator who knew water magic. Shen Yun thought about the woman outside, and then thought about what the man said to Brother Liang when he came in. It was the woman's person who was locked up here. Shen Yun turned around and took a look. Several boys, including the fourth brother lying here, all had excellent faces. Putting aside their spiritual roots, these few faces could make many women crazy. This conjecture flashed through my mind. Shen Yun continued to treat Shen Hong's wounds, carefully covering the wounds with spiritual energy. Use spiritual energy to slowly repair the damage inside. After a while, the bleeding from the wound stopped. Shen Yun looked at the wound that had begun to grow granulation and carefully covered it with clothes. The two people next to him didn't see Shen Yun's movements and thought Shen Yun was checking Shen Hong's wounds. How is Shen Hong? Is the wound still bleeding? You can't see it here, but I touched it when I came in. There should be no bleeding, right? There is still a pulse in his hand, so he should be fine, right? Shen Hong said tightly. He held Shen Hong's arm tightly, keeping his fingers on his pulse. This time, it doesn't matter whether Shen Yun has medical skills or not. Shen Yun is the only one on their side who can move, and they can only rely on Shen Yun to check at the moment. There's no bleeding anymore. Let me look at his broken bones first. Shen Yun examined him carefully. 3 ribs on his body were broken, but luckily they were not misplaced. As long as he used some spiritual energy, the bones would slowly grow together. If they were misplaced, there was really nothing Shen Yun could do. Shen Yun carefully controlled the input of spiritual energy and waited until his ribs were completely healed before retracting his hand. Did you bring tools when you came down? I'll fix Brother Four's legs. Shen Yun looked at the rake beside him. It only had a handle. Even if he split it open, it wouldn't be enough. Yes, look, there are shovels, rakes, and hoes here, Shen Hong said quickly. Shen Yun directly took the shovel and took off the handle. Aim the shovel at the wooden stick and cut it into 4 halves. Shen Hong next to her looked nervously through the blurred light and shadow. Be careful, don't get hurt. Don't worry. Shen Yun used a split wooden stick to carefully fasten the cloth strips to Shen Hong's left calf, right thigh, and then left arm. This woman is really cruel. Does she want to destroy the person directly or kill her directly? But looking at the way she is left here, she probably has a high chance of killing her directly. After fixing Shen Hong, Shen Yun turned slightly to block the probing gaze of the man behind him, and carefully opened Shen Hong's mouth. Put your fingers on it and drip spiritual spring water directly into it. Shen Hong was very close now and saw Shen Yun's movements. Yun Yun. Halfway through his words, he swallowed the rest of his words and looked at the person behind Shen Yun warily. Brother, I can feel your unkind gaze here. I didn't do anything. If you come here again, why are you afraid of me? I dare not do anything. I am the only one in my family. I am still young and have not enjoyed life yet. The man over there was very keen and directly felt Shen Hong's unkind gaze, and said with a wry smile. He just glanced at his sister a few times. He couldn't see clearly in the dark, so he protected her. That was really unfair. Third brother, please leave him alone. Let me see your injury. Shen Yun didn't care what the people behind him saw. As he said, if he did something, Shen Yun really didn't mind doing something. I'm fine, my leg is broken, I can't die, Shen Hong said quickly without letting Shen Yun check. Shen Yun remained silent and looked directly at the obviously abnormal leg. How did this get hurt? Shen Yun said while taking advantage of it. Shen Hong gritted his teeth and endured the pain. I was beaten because I couldn't get along with their boss outside. End of this chapter. The Age of Rebirth, the fake daughter relies on cultivation to become bigger and stronger. Author, Laughing Charm. Chapter 154. Chapter 154, 154, Treating Wounds. When I look at your situation, it seems that you are just like me. Is that female pervert trying to take advantage of you? If you don't agree, she will break your legs and teach you a lesson. When the man next to him heard this, he got excited and said, Baba, Bala. He held onto his weak body and began to talk about his own experiences. Is that so? Shen Yun asked. Yes, right, Shen Hong stuttered. After all, it was the first time in his life that he met such a woman, and now his sister asked him if he had been molested. How strange it felt. Let's take this person back as my sister-in-law. Okay, the bones in the leg are connected. I'll fix it with a stick for you. Shen Yun quickly split a few sticks with his hands and feet, tore off a few strips of cloth from the hem of his clothes and fixed the sticks directly to his leg. Above. What you just said? Shen Hong also reacted from the pain and surprise this time. You're kidding, even if you want to marry her, I don't agree with it. You are so carefree, you found 3 at once, and you are so bad. Third brother, what are you thinking? Shen Yun said with a smile. That's good, Shen Hong breathed a sigh of relief. Look, you are relieved. The woman outside is very ambitious. You are the fish she likes. She thought she would really like you, the man next to him said with a smile. Shut up, please. Shen Yun saw that Shen Hong was about to become angry due to being teased, so he turned around and said. Okay, pretty girl. Look, I'm injured too. Can you please look after your brother and then show it to me? The man softened his voice and discussed. By the way, my name is Duji. Your brother and I are in trouble together. Please help me. Shen Yun didn't have time to answer him this time. This time she was carefully using her spiritual energy to nourish Shen Hong's broken leg. Third brother, how do you feel? Shen Yun asked as he moved his hands. Shen Hong felt Shen Yun's hand on his broken leg and his leg began to warm up. He wanted to ask something, but thinking that there were outsiders here, he just nodded and said, I'm fine. I feel like it now, much better. Why don't you take a break and let's figure out how to get out? Don't worry, I'm not tired now. Shen Yun kept moving his hands until he felt that Shen Hong's leg bones had healed and there were no other problems, then Shen Yun withdrew his hands. Third brother, you sit down and take a rest. I'll see what's going on with fourth brother. Shen Yun motioned to Shen Hong to sit still, then he stood up and came to Shen Hong's side. After his own spiritual energy therapy and drinking spiritual spring water, Shen Hong's condition is now much more stable. It is estimated that people will wake up in a short time. Shen Yun felt relieved. He turned around and walked towards Duji, who was next to him. What's wrong? Shen Yun asked, looking at the unshaven man with hair wrapped around his face. There's nothing wrong with it, except that 2 legs are broken, the left arm is broken, and a few ribs are probably broken. Other minor injuries are nothing, Duji said, pretending to be relaxed. You are so injured and still so energetic, you are so lucky. Seeing him like this, Shen Yun couldn't help but sigh. This is all an injury caused a long time ago. I guess I was the first one to come here. I don't have any great abilities in this life, only my luck. Duji agreed with Shen Yun's statement. If it weren't for his luck, before he came in he's dead. Isn't it just that he is holding on to this slim hope that he is still holding on to this life? Today he has finally seen hope. Shen Yun listened to his words and didn't stop moving. She came out of the mountains and rivers Shirji map to find some time to learn some treatment methods for bone injuries. Although her skills were not at a professional level, she had spiritual awareness and would be able to show her skills. He glanced directly at the place he mentioned, as if taking an X-ray of his wound, and saw it clearly. The bones in the leg have a tendency to heal, but because the bones have not been straightened, even if they heal, they will not be able to walk in the future. The broken bones in the arm have grown together, and it's the same problem. If you want to grow back, you can only break them and rejoin them. The ribs were the most recent injuries, 5 were broken, and there was a bullet in the leg, not to mention other minor wounds on the body. To be injured in such a strong living person is really a blessing, or it can be said that the belief is strong. Your arm needs to be broken and reattached. Although the condition of your leg is better, you also know that you have been injured for a while and it is not easy to deal with it, so you have to be prepared for any consequences. Shen Yun say it first. Okay, you're a little girl, you don't have to do anything to interrupt this kind of thing. Before he finished speaking, he picked up the handle of the shovel next to him and broke the injured area of his left arm hard. Shen Yun saw that his hair was soaked with sweat, his whole body was shaking uncontrollably, and the corners of his mouth were bleeding, but he still didn't make a sound. You are so cruel to yourself, which makes me hesitate. Shen Yun looked at his actions with a hint of surprise in his eyes. Either a person like him has great faith to support him, or he is really a cruel person. Such people are difficult to control. If they become their opponents in the future, they will not be easy to deal with. Oh, don't hesitate. Although I am cruel to myself, I have never been an ungrateful person. Don't worry, if you save me this time, I will never be an enemy of you and your family in this life. Duji gasped and said. This girl thinks too highly of herself. Now she is a lost dog, and it is hard to say whether she will survive. She actually creates a feeling of threat to others. Should she be proud of herself? If you remember today, if you do something in the future, I can save you today and deal with you in the future, Shen Yun said in an indifferent voice. I remember, Duji answered simply, looking at Shen Yun firmly through the cracks in his hair. Shen Yun lowered his head and began to directly treat the injury on his left arm. After fixing the bones, Shen Yun also treated his broken leg. Although this did not require interruption, it was still very painful. Duji did not say a word during the whole process. Chewing, but from his heavy breathing, you can feel how much pain he is in. The bones are all in good condition, the gunshot wound is a penetrating wound, there is no bullet inside, and it has already started to heal, so I won't treat it for you. I can't handle the rib injury either, so you can only grow it yourself. This is medicine, you take a little. After Shen Yun finished speaking, he took out some anti-inflammatory medicine from his pocket. This is given by the special department every time he goes on a mission. Shen Yun didn't know when it was stuffed into the space. This time, he can just take it out and use it. Duji didn't ask what the medicine was, he directly took it, stuffed it into his mouth, and swallowed it. Thanks. You're welcome. End of this chapter. The Age of Rebirth, the fake daughter relies on cultivation to become bigger and stronger. Author, Laughing Charm. Chapter 155. Chapter 155, 155, there is an unlucky guy lying next to him. The situation has been dealt with here. Shen Yun did not use spiritual energy to deal with it. It was just the first time he met someone. Shen Yun felt that this was enough. Third brother, You should also take some anti-inflammatory medicine. Shen Yun handed the remaining 2 pills to Shen Hong. Shen Hong did not ask why Shen Yun carried anti-inflammatory medicine with him. After all, he had just seen so many magical things in Shen Yun. Now he just needed to remain silent as before. Shen Hong had just put the medicine into his mouth when he heard a banging sound from outside. "It's time to serve dinner," Shen Hong explained to Shen Yun what the sound was. "Then let me go over and get it." "It's not easy for you to be seen in this situation." Shen Yun stood up and walked outside. After passing through the not too long mine tunnel, I saw the strong man Liang Ji standing at the center point leading to each mine tunnel, tapping the rice bowl impatiently. Then Shen Yun saw some people walking out of each mine tunnel. There are people I have met before coming here, and there are also people I have never seen before. Everyone should have been working for a short time, and their skin has basically maintained its original color. They don't know what this place does, they only know that the wages here are high. As for whether I can finally get my salary, that will have to wait a month. Shen Yun watched a group of people happily heading towards Brother Liang to receive their meals, and he also went over directly. 4 portions of rice. The strong man raised his eyes and looked at Shen Yun. "Oh, the 3 over there are fine." What a waste of food. The man reluctantly picked up the unwashed lunch box next to him and packed 4 portions of rice. He threw it casually in front of Shen Yun. Shen Yun looked at the soup in front of him that was spread all over the floor, and then looked at the black soup inside the lunch box that smelled like burnt food. He didn't know what it was made from. It obviously didn't look like it was being eaten by others. But seeing how everyone doesn't seem to care, I guess it's good enough to be able to take care of the food here. Shen Yun directly stacked the 4 portions of rice together and walked towards the mine tunnel without changing his expression. Out of Brother Liang's sight, Shen Yun hid his aura and hid in a dark place. Carefully count how many people there are underground. There are 6 mine entrances here, and people came out of 5 of them. Shen Yun calculated it, and there were estimated to be more than 30 people here. As for the last mine tunnel, no one has ever come out. Shen Yun took note of the situation, and when no one came out again, she took her rice and walked inside. What we ate today was glutinous rice, but I saw that the boxes they served the rice in were not washed. Shen Yun placed the rice in front of several people. "I'm used to it, I've been here for a long time, and I eat this every day." "A bunch of tool people, do you think they would bother to make delicacies from the mountains and seas? Eat it if you can accept it, after all, survival is important." Du Ji said mockingly, supporting his body with one hand and slowly getting up. Regardless of whether the lunch box was dirty or not, he directly picked up the box in front of him and drank. Shen Hong was silent for a moment, then picked it up and put it in his mouth. Shen Yun put his own aside and walked towards Shen Hong over there. "I just noticed that his fingers were moving, he must be waking up soon." Shen Yun went over and took a look, then met Shen Hong's eyes, and then saw his tears streaming down his face. "Chen Yun, why have you been caught? Is this woman a pervert?" "It's for both men and women," Shen Hong said slowly while crying. He thought he was dead, but when he woke up he felt no pain in his body. And also saw Chen Yun, but his eyes were still in darkness. His mind was confused and he didn't know whether he was dead or if Shen Yun was also caught. Thinking about it, neither of them was a good thing. "Shen Hong, how do you feel?" At this time, he heard Shen Hong's voice again. When he turned around, he saw the unshaven 3rd brother sitting next to him. Oh, the hand holding his was warm. It seemed that he was not dead yet. "Why were you all arrested?" Shen Hong's mood eased a bit, and there was still hope for him not to die. "Don't ask this yet, how are you feeling now?" Shen Hong did not answer this question, but first cared about Shen Hong's physical condition. "I feel pretty good, but I'm just a little hungry." Shen Hong felt it. His body, which was in severe pain, now only had slight pain. It didn't affect his activities, but he still felt hungry. This is today's meal. See if you want to eat it. Shen Yun put the lunch box he received directly next to Shen Hong's eyes. Eat, Shen Hong wiped away his tears and said firmly. Only when he was full did he have the strength to run away. Shen Yun directly helped the person up, handed the lunch box to his right side, and watched him drink the bowl of watery goo. Third brother, we have to find a way to get out, otherwise our family will not be able to bear it if there are three of us trapped here at once. Although Shen Hong's reaction was big just now, he soon came up with an idea. Don't be in a hurry to go out. There are a lot of good things here. At first, Shen Yun didn't meet Shen Hong and they wanted to go out quickly, but now that they saw both of them here, they were not so anxious. I came here to the Lingxi mine and left empty-handed. I feel a little sorry for the worries of my family and the hardships my two brothers endured. What's dark inside here is just a mine. It's not a gold mine or a diamond mine. What good things can there be? Du Ji next to him asked in confusion. Shen Hong suddenly heard another stranger's voice and was startled. Turning around, I saw an unlucky guy lying next to me. Shen Yun glanced at Du Ji. This man was quite powerful and could tell whether it was a gold mine or something. It's not a gold mine, but something more precious than gold or diamond mines. When you came in, did you touch a black instrument? Do you remember how many lights were on it? Shen Yun asked directly. I have 2 lights, Shen Hong replied. I regretted not coming after the test, but I didn't know that I was knocked unconscious by those people and brought to this place. Later, I met a woman and was made like this. Embarrassed. I have 3, Shen Hong also said. I have 1, Du Ji also replied after him. This is the key point. When you came in, the sky had changed outside the country. Released news. Now there is a new energy called spiritual energy. You have all heard the story of cultivating immortals. This kind of spiritual energy is used for cultivation. Only those who test the light can use spiritual energy to practice. Shen Yun directly clarified the doubts of several people. Although the news was announced before Shen Hong and the others came in, it is unlikely that people like Shen Hong who are busy with their lives would read the newspaper. Even if they did, they would not know many details. Don't understand. No wonder, it turns out there is a reason why I am so miserable. Du Ji seemed to have suddenly figured out something, and looked at Shen Yun expectantly. Since you mentioned this, you must have some knowledge of this spiritual energy. Understand it, otherwise I wouldn't dare come to save people alone. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Age of Rebirth, the fake daughter relies on cultivation to become bigger and stronger. Author, Laughing Charm. Chapter 156. Chapter 156, 156, The Hot Spiritual Stone. Du Ji's expression gradually became excited. Shen Yun glanced at him and did not answer his question. This mine is the Spirit Stone mine, which is used for cultivation. The number of lights that turn on in your test shows how many spiritual roots you have. At present, it seems that Du Ji, your spiritual roots are the best. If I were the owner of this mine and your enemy, I would definitely not let you walk out of this place alive. Shen Yun said very objectively. What's the use of having spiritual roots? I'm locked in here and I don't know how to practice, and I don't know if the country has released any practice methods. After listening to Shen Yun's words, Du Ji lay on his back on the ground, his eyes blank. He turned his head and looked at the top of the mine. Then what should we do? It's all our fault that we want to go out to work this year and do something to prove ourselves. If we just stay in our hometown, how can we do such things? Shen Hong said regretfully. No one would have thought of this, but now is not the time to feel sorry for ourselves. It's better to cultivate your health first. Don't worry about your cultivation. Even if you don't cultivate, I can take you out well. Shen Yun didn't let the two of them think about this matter. The moods of the two of them are fluctuating greatly now. It's not a good time to start practicing. After the two people behind them calm down, Shen Yun plans to hand over the practice to the two of them. We have to rely on them to save ourselves. And she herself planned to go to the boss they mentioned to have a look. In the next 2 days, Shen Yun did not rush out, but quickly started digging for spiritual stones. The quality of this spirit stone mine is pretty good, reaching the level of a medium-grade spirit stone. Although Shen Yun was fast, he only dug more than 200 grains on the first night. The few people nearby were ordered by Shen Yun not to move. They could only hear Shen Yun banging nails, but they didn't know how many nails Shen Yun dug. Shen Yun put them all into the space when no one was paying attention, leaving only one for the other 3 people to see. This is the spiritual stone. Touch it with your hands. It will be warm. Shen Yun handed the palm-sized jade-like spiritual stone to several people. In the dark light, the spirit stone exudes a faint shimmer, which looks very beautiful. Is this the spirit stone? Why does it feel like top-quality jade? After looking at it and touching it, Shen Hong carefully handed the spirit stone in his hands to Duji. While he was speaking, Shen Yun saw that the spirit stone that had just arrived in his hands seemed to have encountered a strong suction, and the light shining on it suddenly dissipated a little. Although not many have disappeared, it is still particularly obvious among dark species. Let go, Shen Yun said directly to Duji. Duji was startled by Shen Yun's sudden voice. Carefully put down the spirit stone in his hand. What's wrong? He asked in confusion, thinking that Shen Yun was not happy to show him this thing. Take it, and you will absorb a little of my spiritual energy. When you dig it yourself later, you have to pay me a piece of it. Shen Yun picked up the spiritual stone and looked at it carefully. It was indeed more spiritual than when he just got it. A little less. Hearing what Shen Yun said, Duji looked at his right hand in confusion. He didn't feel anything, but his hand felt warm. Congratulations. It seems that you are very talented. You can absorb spiritual energy by yourself without using any exercises. In the future, you will practice exercises that suit you. Shen Yun looked at Duji carefully and found that he was indeed a gifted person. In her last life, Shen Yun was a gifted person and started practicing directly after being initiated by spiritual energy. However, at that time, she thought that her qualifications were very poor. After all, she had 5 spiritual roots and was not worth mentioning compared to others. She has also heard of other gifted people whose bodies can automatically absorb strength and then practice. Of course, you have to discover the problems that will arise on the way to practice. At that time, everyone envied such talented people. After all, the era when spiritual energy appeared was too long ago. Although spiritual energy has revived and many people have spiritual roots, it is impossible to start practicing without suitable techniques. Just like the Shen family, although some have good spiritual roots, they are not gifted. In this life, Shen Yun chose to practice the skills of his ancestors, so he would not be able to become a gifted person. Are you saying I can practice? Duji was stunned when he heard Shen Yun say this. Yes, you can practice now. Here it is. I've lent you this spirit stone. Remember to return it later. Shen Yun handed the spirit stone in his hand over again. Duji's whole body was shaking with excitement. Thank you for this. Listening to his incoherent words, Shen Yun looked at the 2 Shen brothers, and saw the 2 looking at Duji with envy. Brother, you are so lucky. My sister saved you from such a serious injury. Now that my sister has discovered your talent for cultivation, you are really lucky, Shen Hong said with a smile, but concealed it. He couldn't help his slightly sour tone. I won't say much more to thank you. As long as I can walk out this way, this will be the gift of rebirth. Duji clenched the spirit stone in his hand, feeling a warm current gradually move from the palm of his hand to his arm, and then slowly moving towards the whole body. I was so excited that I didn't know what to say. After thinking for a long time, I said firmly. Well, you should practice hard, and you can only get out of this place when you improve your strength. Shen Yun gave a piece of advice, and then called the two Shen brothers to walk aside. Du Ji looked at the two brothers who had no physical abnormalities and admired Shen Yun even more. A man who was injured more seriously than himself had been acting like a normal person for only 2 days. A man with such strength was still willing to save him. If you take the life of a lost dog, you really don't ask for anything in return. You must not become an ungrateful person. Shen Yun didn't know Du Ji's decision. At this moment, he had taken the two Shen brothers to a hidden place. Do you two want to become immortals? Shen Yun asked. It's true or false if you don't want to, but we don't have Du Ji's talent, so there's nothing we can do about it, Shen Hong said with a wry smile. I want to practice, Shen Hong said bluntly. This time he saw his younger brother and sister in danger, and he no longer wanted to endure it. Here is a technique that I prepared for my family. Since you haven't practiced body refining for a few days, this is the best choice for now. Do you want to start practicing now, or do you want to wait until you get home and practice physical training with your family for a while before starting to practice? I can tell you clearly that practicing physical training for a period of time will make your future cultivation path smoother. Chen Yun took the jade slip out of his pocket and showed it to the two people. End of this chapter. The Age of Rebirth, the fake daughter relies on cultivation to become bigger and stronger. Author, Laughing Charm. Chapter 157. Chapter 157, 157, Relax your mind, so that the road ahead will be easier. We choose to practice now. The two people looked at each other in the dark and said in unison, although they knew that the best result was to go home and practice physical training for a while before starting to practice again. If they were outside, the two of them would definitely not make this choice. After all, everyone in the family is practicing cultivation, so it would be impossible for them to be the only ones missing. But the current situation is that several people are in a dangerous situation. If they don't start practicing, they may hold back Chen Yun when they go out. This is something they don't want to see. Okay, this contains the cultivation techniques. Hold it against your forehead, hold your breath and concentrate. Chen Yun first handed the jade slip to Shen Hong. They are both 20-year-old adults. As soon as Shen Yun said it, the two of them knew what to do. The content of the jade slips was received very smoothly. It didn't take long for the exercises to be carefully memorized in the minds of the two of them. Then let's go dig the spiritual stones and start practicing, the two people said anxiously. No, your situation is different from Du Ji's. The first step you have to do now is to introduce qi into your body. You must first feel the presence of spiritual qi before you can start practicing. Shen Yun looked at the two anxious people and quickly explained. Although the spiritual energy in the air is thin now, it must be enough for you to introduce it into your body. When the two of them heard what Shen Yun said, they suppressed their anxiety and carefully checked the statements in their minds about the entry of spiritual energy into the body. The explanation was more detailed than what Shen Yun said. Sure enough, the two of them were in a hurry just now and almost did something wrong. Okay, you two go outside to practice, I still have to dig for spiritual stones. I would like to warn you, you can work hard, but don't compare yourself with others. The most taboo thing about cultivation is impatience. Calm your mind, so that the road ahead will be easier. Chen Yun gave her own warning. After all, she herself had suffered from impatience several times. The muscles and veins in her body were almost bursting from the spiritual energy. That feeling was not pleasant. Don't worry, the two men nodded. They were not rushing to dig out spiritual stones for Shen Yun at this time. The most important thing now was to introduce the qi into the body first. When the two of them returned to Du Ji's side, they saw that Du Ji was practicing with the spirit stone in his hand. The two of them quickly sat down and began to introduce qi into their bodies seriously. Shen Yun continued to pound. There were so many spiritual stones in here, it would be a pity not to get more. Shen Yun planned to use the spiritual stones to pile up a small mountain of spiritual energy in his own space. While I was doing it, I heard a little jumping and chirping sound in my head. Chen Yun directly entered the space with his consciousness, and saw that Xiao Banqi had arranged all the spiritual stones he had dug neatly. Chen Yun looked carefully at the shape, which seemed to be a big bird's nest, but now it was just a simple prototype. Xiao Bangtao cried out impatiently when he saw that he hadn't put any more spiritual stones in it for so long. Enjoy it or it will enjoy it. Other phoenixes sleep on the sycamore tree, but the one I raised directly used spiritual stones to build its nest. For a while, I didn't know which of the two was better. But what is certain is that this phoenix must be a hybrid, with dragon blood in its body. Shen Yun looked at the piece of spiritual stone he had dug out after a long time. The little Banqi inside was still not satisfied, so he took the little Banqi out directly. Look, this aura spell won't work. You keep urging me, try it yourself, Shen Yun murmured while holding an egg. The little bungee jumped on Shen Yun's hand a few times, and the chirping voice kept ringing in her mind, as if she was not satisfied with Shen Yun's orders to her. However, after staying outside for a while, she saw that Shen Yun did not move much. Quick! It screamed loudly in Shen Yun's mind and flew directly towards the stone wall. Hey, don't be impulsive. This is not a spiritual beast or spiritual plant. It's a real stone. Be careful and break it, Shen Yun quickly shouted in his mind. But Dan, who was confident in himself, ignored Shen Yun's call and hit the stone wall over there. Shen Yun didn't even reach out to stop him. Boom! Shen Yun stared at the collapsed stone wall in front of him in stunned silence. His first reaction was to block the sound. Don't let it spread and attract the strong man Liang. Although he can deal with him, the follow-up matters will be more troublesome. He doesn't want to be exposed yet. Own strength. Then I realized that the little jumping dog was still inside and hadn't come yet, so I hurried over to Bala. Don't really beat the odds. Oh, luckily you're okay. Shen Yun turned Xiao Banqi over from the stone and saw that a lot of spiritual stones had been collected around Xiao Banqi. I don't know how it was done. Shen Yun looked at the collapsed tunnel. The speed was quite fast, but the movement was too loud. Little Banqi, you go and continue smashing, and I will pick up the spirit stones. Shen Yun saw that there was no trace left on the eggshell of Xiao Banqi, and he suddenly felt that using child labor was not unacceptable. Little Banqi didn't say anything, and rushed towards the stone wall in front of him. Shen Yun quickly picked up the spirit stones behind him. This efficiency is more than 10 times faster than before. The conditions are now very difficult, and Xiao Banqi has a relatively poor owner, so he became the first phoenix to work for his own nest. Shen Yun only needs to be responsible for isolating the sound and picking up spiritual stones. The voice sounded again, and Shen Yun knew that the goods were coming. But before I even reached out, I smelled a strange smell. Shen Yun opened the stone and took a look, and saw some corpses lying underneath, more than one, and they already had a smell. Shen Yun turned around and saw that he and Xiao Banqi had opened up the mine tunnel next door, but this should be an abandoned mine tunnel, which was specially used to deal with dead people. Shen Yun continued to turn over the rocks. There were more than a dozen corpses lying underground. The temperature inside the mine was a little lower than outside, but compared to the winter in the north, the temperature here was still very high. Shen Yun could roughly tell the size of these people based on their stature. After a closer look, without exception, they all died of pain due to the aura bursting their veins. The origins of these people are clear. They all died in mining, and this mining tunnel should be the place where no one came out that day. Shen Yun put away the spirit stone and walked inside along the mine tunnel with Xiao Banqi in his arms. Sure enough, he walked outside to the place where he got his food. Listening to the banging sounds from other mine tunnels, Shen Yun returned directly to the mine tunnel where he was. For the rest of the mining of spirit stones, he only had to avoid a few other mine tunnels. Shen Yun planned to take Xiao Benqi to hollow out this place, which would be considered a visit. When I went back, I saw a few people practicing seriously. Duji, who was lying there, also started doing it now. Shen Yun and Xiao Benqi did not disturb the others and continued working. The demolition of the mountain wall was carried out very quickly and silently, leaving only rubble on the ground and spiritual stones piled higher and higher in Shen Yun's space. End of this chapter. The Age of Rebirth, the fake daughter relies on cultivation to become bigger and stronger. Author, Laughing Charm. Chapter 158. The next time, Shen Yun concentrated on digging for spiritual stones with Xiao Benqi. During the meal time, he heard the knocking sound and went out to get the meal. You have been here for 4 days. If there is no output tomorrow, then don't eat. Shen Yun went out to get food that day, and was warned by the strong man Liang Ji. I work every day, and you can hear my knocking, but nothing comes out. After all, it's full of rocks. I'm just a weak woman, Shen Yun said defensively. The kids in the mine tunnel next door can do the work. How come you can't do it as an adult? You have to be a freeloader when you grow up. This is not your home, and we don't raise freeloaders here. If there are no results, then I'll send you away. Brother Liang looked at Shen Yun, his triangular eyes staring straight at her, as if he wanted to kill her directly. No, the people who sent me here that day said they wanted to send me to the big boss as his secretary. Wouldn't it be bad if you sent me away? Shen Yun pretended not to understand what he said. Is that you? I've never seen a big boss. What a sweet dream you have if you want a sparrow to turn into a phoenix, Brother Liang said sarcastically. Then I see those people inside aren't working, so how come they have food to eat every day? Shen Yun changed the subject and turned directly to the people inside. Can it be the same? They are the ones that the boss likes. Why don't they have some food? Besides, you didn't see the state of those people. If you want to do that, you can try it too, Brother Liang said impatiently. Okay, it turns out that if you are the one the boss likes, you will be beaten half to death, and I don't want to do that. I've gone back to work. Could you please help me ask if it's okay for me to be my boss's secretary in the past? Shen Yun still walked inside carrying 4 portions of rice. Successfully cleared up the acquaintances between himself and several people, and revealed that several people were still alive. People from behind came to check and found that he had almost dug out the underground mine. It's time to eat, everyone. Shen Yun returned inside and directly placed the rice in its original position. Through Shen Yun's efforts, the inside has now been expanded 3 times. It is very spacious for several people to stay. When Shen Yun passed by, several people are meditating. Hearing Shen Yun's cry, several people opened their eyes. So, I successfully introduced the qi into my body, Shen Hong said happily. Congratulations, how are you doing, third brother? This is the biggest surprise today. You can practice by introducing qi into your body. I'm still close, Shen Hong said a little embarrassedly. Among the few people, his talent was the worst. Don't be discouraged, keep working hard, Shen Yun said comfortingly. My injuries have healed. I want to dig some spiritual stones, Du Ji said next to him. Shen Yun glanced at him. This guy had not recovered from his injuries, but he had already broken through the first level of qi training. It had only been a few days, so the speed was too fast. Okay, this spirit stone mine is not my own, you can do it according to your own wishes. Shen Yun had no reason to stop him, saying that there were already tens of thousands of spirit stones in his space, and the phoenix nest was also its setup, but there's still a lot left on the side. 80% of the spiritual stones in the entire underground mine are in their own space. For the rest of the time, Shen Yun no longer instructed Xiao Benqi, but picked up the small rake and started digging for spiritual stones. Shen Hong successfully introduced qi directly into his body that night. And Shen Yun also received the news of leaving in the middle of the night that night. I didn't expect that sparrows can really fly up the branches, but the sparrows flying up the branches are still sparrows. Clean them up. I will ring the bell here tonight and come out and take you to be the boss's secretary, Brother Liang reluctantly said. As soon as Shen Yun heard the news, he immediately put on a smile on his face, not letting himself wait for so many days in vain. Okay, she agreed readily. Back in the mine, Shen Yun told the two brothers of the Shen family about the news. Yun Yun, are you really going? The two of them were still anxious when they heard Shen Yun's plan. Go, let's go, and see who the boss behind this is. Shen Yun's attitude was very firm. Then will you be in danger? Why don't we go? After escaping, tell the police about this and let the state send people to take care of it, Shen Hong said worriedly. He had seen the management here. The boss is so cruel, even a manager is so ruthless, who knows who the boss is behind him? Fourth brother, I have made up my mind. You will practice well here. I will keep all the spiritual stones I dug these days for you. When you are strong enough, you can escape directly. The most important thing is to save your own life first. If you have the ability, you can save the people in the mine next to them, otherwise they will be dead if they stay here. Shen Yun explained the matter clearly to the two brothers, and then directly stuffed the two brothers with several engraved defensive charms. Wear this on your body, it will save your life in critical moments. Find Shen Jian after you go out, then go directly to this place and give this piece of paper to the person in charge over there, they will help you. Chen Yun also wrote them the address to the south of the special department, let them take a look, and stuffed it directly into their pockets. After saying this, Shen Yun saw that the time was almost up, turned around and walked outside. The slightly sharp aura on his body disappeared, and Shen Yun returned to the look of the somewhat innocent little girl. Who asked you to come out on your own? Brother Liang saw Shen Yun coming over and scolded him sharply. The gun in his hand was shaking up and down. He could imagine that he was pointing the gun at him just now. Isn't it that I don't want to fall asleep and delay your business? Shen Yun saw Chiang pretending to be scared and hid behind him. Don't think you can go to the boss and not take me seriously. Guns don't have eyesight. If you die here, your death will be in vain, Brother Liang said while gesturing at Shen Yun with his gun. Shen Yun directly sent a burst of spiritual energy into his body. This trick was only used on Lu when he was in Beijing. He was honored to get the right to use it for the second time, so he should seek some justice for those who died. The sound of a gun falling to the ground suddenly sounded in my ears. Shen Yun turned his spiritual energy into needles and attacked several of his big joints. I saw Brother Liang lying on the ground and wailing on the opposite side. Shen Yun stood there and watched, and asked in a low voice, "Are you sick? Do you need to call someone for you? You still go out to work even though you are sick. It should be retribution for killing someone." Brother Liang over there was so painful that his hearing was blurred, and he was rolling all over the ground. The rocky ground directly scratched him and he was covered in blood. Shen Yun calmly walked through Brother Liang and opened the door of the mine directly. Looking at the people who had come to pick him up not far away, he shouted, "Brother Liang is sick. Are you someone they know?" When several people heard Shen Yun's voice, they immediately ran over. Shen Yun could now clearly see the people here. In addition to the female boss who was on the third level of Qi training, there was also a little Lugo who was on the first level of Qi training, followed by 5 ordinary thugs. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Age of Rebirth, the fake daughter relies on cultivation to become bigger and stronger. Author, Laughing Charm. Chapter 159. Looking at the few people carrying boxes, I guess I was just there, and transporting the spirit stones was probably my main job this time. Shen Yun called someone and shrank back. People outside also came down now. What's going on? Asked the female boss. I don't know. When I came over, he pointed a gun at me, and then suddenly he fell to the ground. Of course, Shen Yun couldn't say that he did this. Even if this woman could feel the spiritual energy in Brother Liang's bones, she wouldn't be able to solve it. Sure enough, when the man heard what Shen Yun said, he looked around and saw that the gun was still lying on the ground. This time, Brother Liang was rolling on the ground and could no longer see. Boss, has he been underground for a long time? Like everyone else, the man glanced at their abandoned mine. Trash, I thought he was different from the others, but I didn't expect him to be so useless. As Shen Yun said that, he saw the woman's hand move, and a flash of spiritual energy made the person lying underneath completely motionless. This woman was so cruel that she sent him away without even looking at what was going on. Shen Yun pretended not to see it and stood far away. Okay, don't waste time. Bring your things and people. Let's go. Third brother, when we go out, you stay here to watch the scene. I told the people below that they are not recruiting people recently. You are here, be careful. The cook over there will continue to bring food when it's time. The woman quickly arranged the next thing. Shen Yun saw the Qi practicing level 1 man respond. A few people didn't take Shen Yun seriously at all, and directly opened a gap in the stone wall next to him, which contained the spiritual stones dug by workers during this period. This group of wastes is given food and drink every day. They dig out this little thing in a week. Third brother, please supervise them during this time. The situation here is relatively tense during this time. We'd better get rid of the remaining stuff here as soon as possible. Finish processing the materials, and then evacuate directly, otherwise the people here will catch you. You know the result, the woman said dissatisfiedly as she looked at the spirit stone behind the stone wall. Okay boss, don't worry, but what about the remaining 3 people in this mine? Lao San asked for instructions. Don't worry about them, they are all waste. There will be more in the future. The woman turned her head and glanced at the mine tunnel where Shen Hung and the others were, and said in a calm voice. A group of subordinates had expressions on their faces, as if they were used to this kind of thing. Shen Yun looked at the third brother who was about to stay. He was practicing Qi 1 level at a time. It would be easy for the third brother and the others to deal with him. Originally, she thought that this woman with the highest level of cultivation would stay, but she was a little worried. Now looking at her attitude, she probably has to leave for a while. This is better. Several people put all the spiritual stones behind the stone wall into boxes and went straight out of the mine. Let's go, little girl, follow me and I'll take you to see the world. There was obvious malice in the woman's words. Shen Yun followed directly as everyone looked at him like they were watching a show. Getting in the car, we went directly to the seaside. I took a flashlight and shined it. Not long after, a ship sailed over on the sea. Shen Yun was pushed onto the boat by several people and stuffed into the cabin. When the sky began to turn white, Shen Yun was called out of the cabin. Looking at the vastly different scenery here and on the other side, Shen Yun knew that he was now in the port city. We didn't go ashore secretly and silently. There were many people on the shore who came to help us. Shen Yun looked over and realized that many people here had some cultivation. Could it be that these people knew about the existence of spiritual energy earlier than the mainland, or perhaps some great spiritual vein was discovered here? Shen Yun thought deeply. These were things she had never heard of in her previous life, and now she could only look them up on her own. Following the footsteps of everyone's attention was focused on the few boxes brought back by the female boss. Shen Yun was a slightly prettier girl who was brought along. Although some people had their thoughts in mind, they were doing business now, so no one made it difficult for Shen Yun. Shen Yun followed him directly into the car and looked at this place carefully. It was the first time in his life that he had been to this place. Sister Qin, brother has been waiting for you for a long time. When the car stopped, Shen Yun saw a young man approaching the car in front of him. Seeing that person, Shen Yun narrowed his eyes, opened the car door and got out of the car with everyone. What a coincidence, She knew the man who came up to him. Shen Yun moved his wrist slightly. He twitched the corner of his mouth and looked at the man over there who was having a heated chat with the female boss. He really had no idea where to go, and it didn't take any effort. He was thinking about getting rid of the big knot in his heart before he could advance to the golden elixir. To avoid inner demons appearing during the tribulation. I didn't expect to encounter them this time. Fu Win. It's been so long since I've seen him. Win, I really need you to come and pick me up. The female boss couldn't help but reveal a bit of girlish shyness on her cold face when she saw the man in front of her. Sister Qin, why are you being polite to me? I can't do much at home. I'd be happy to come and pick you up. Let's go in quickly. I'll help you carry the things you bring, Fu Win said enthusiastically, and the man, her pair of peach blossom eyes were shining, staring closely at Sister Qin, as if she were looking at a woman full of admiration. It turns out that Fu Win is like this now, relying on his skin to attract women's attention to achieve his goals. I wonder if he relied on this face and the strength behind the Fu family to conquer the Ji family in his previous life. Shen Yun paid attention to the conversation over there and looked around at the villa on the top of the mountain. It was luxurious and grand, with a panoramic view of the mountains. The location was excellent, and it was not a cheap location in the port city. It seems that everything I knew in my previous life were all lies made up by Fu Win. Just to get me into the laboratory, why should I take me to meet my parents? As long as they reached an agreement with the Ji family, I, who had just learned about my life experience and was confused, couldn't just take care of it. The two of them joked a little more, and Shen Yun saw them walking directly towards the door of the villa. Just as I was about to follow him, I was stopped by a security guard in black. Wait outside first, do you think anyone can come in here? The security guard in black scolded him with a cold face. Fu Win over there heard the voice behind him and glanced this way, and said gently, let her go over there and wait. Don't let this girl stand in the sun. Yes, the security guard in black responded and took Shen Yun to sit under the umbrella set up next to him. Is this person really capable? At this time, he has not forgotten to win people's hearts. If I didn't know what kind of person he is, I would definitely be full of gratitude to him. Shen Yun sat outside and thought, but his actions did not slow down. His consciousness followed several people into the villa. The age of rebirth, the fake daughter relies on cultivation to become bigger and stronger. Author, Laughing Charm. Chapter 160. Chapter 160, 160, Confrontation. The space inside the villa is larger than it looks from the outside. Fu Win sent the person to the edge of the stairs and watched the person go up the stairs with a smile on his face, but he had no intention of going upstairs. Shen Yun's consciousness passed directly over the crowd and headed upstairs. Everything was going smoothly at first, but when he arrived at the door of a room on the second floor, he encountered interference, which was like a means of attack. Shen Yun felt the consciousness in his mind waver, and quickly withdrew his consciousness outside. The protection here is very tight. The spiritual consciousness cannot penetrate through the spiritual stone mine. It can only be said that the veins formed by the spiritual stones have created a unique aura, which blocks the prying eyes of the spiritual consciousness. But the outside of the room looks like a very ordinary building, and the villa is already inside. Why can't I enter only this room? Shen Yun stopped his consciousness not far from the door. Looking at Sister Qin coming over there with a few of her men. Then a few people walked to the door that blocked Shen Yun's consciousness. Sister Qin stepped forward and knocked on the door carefully. Come in, a majestic male voice sounded in the room. Shen Yun saw that the door was opened. Through the open door, he could see mysterious patterns carved on the wall. Shen Yun was just about to take advantage of this moment to directly probe his spiritual consciousness when he saw the patterns on the wall instantly distorted. Shen Yun directly withdrew his consciousness amid the lightning and flint. Boss, what's going on? Several people looked at the movement on the wall and asked in surprise, and immediately took a protective posture. The middle-aged man looked around, saw the pattern on the wall move, and immediately stopped again. The person has left here, but he can find my study room, which means that this person is not far away. Lao He, you go check it out. Yes, a man with no sense of presence quietly stood up from the corner of the study. Everyone's eyes were dazzled, and the man disappeared into the study. Boss, would you like me to ask someone to search the area? Sister Chin asked with concern. No, this person should be stronger than you. If Lao He can't deal with it, you would have killed him in the past. The middle-aged man frowned and explained to a few people, then turned directly and entered the cubicle next to the study. It took a while before he came out to talk about the spirit stone. As soon as Shen Yun withdrew his consciousness, he felt someone walking towards him. When he opened his eyes, he saw a man with a 28-year-old hair and shiny hair walking towards him. Who could it be if it wasn't Fu Wen, who had just entered the room? Little girl, are you the one brought here by Sister Chin? Fu Wen asked gently. If your eyes are useless, you can consider donating your corneas. Shen Yun stared at the black shadow that suddenly appeared outside the villa not far away and said unkindly. Fu Wen couldn't help but be stunned for a moment when Shen Yun said this. It took him a long time to realize that he was scolding himself, and he couldn't help but feel angry. However, he looked at the bodyguards in black standing next to him and endured it. The little girl is sharp-tongued, but this is not the mainland. You have to be careful what you say here, otherwise no one will spoil you. Fu Wen rolled up his sleeves and sat aside, still pretending to be kind and consoling. Chen Yun glanced at him and saw the stern look in his eyes. He clearly had the urge to kill himself, but he could still speak with a smile. In his previous life, he had been angry with him so many times and was sent to research. It seems that this person really doesn't want to pretend anymore. I have seen many girls like you who came to Hong Kong City to make a fortune. This must be the first time I have seen such a big villa. Seeing that Shen Yun stopped responding to him, Fu Wen sat aside and continued. Shen Yun looked at the dark figure that was almost here, glanced at it, and then turned to look at Fu Wen, who was sitting next to him. Wearing a suit and tie, he looks a bit like a rich man. Is he showing off his family wealth in front of himself? Feeling the dark shadow approaching from behind, Shen Yun felt that his concentration was really good now. In front of him sat the enemy who had killed him in his previous life, and behind him was a ghost approaching him with full of yin energy. It's not easy to sit here motionless and keep the expression on your face just right. The port city is so big. No matter how big the houses are, how big can they be? You may have never heard of the imperial palaces and courtyard houses in the mainland. That's what they call big. The frog in the well shouldn't laugh at the birds in the sky. Shen Yun came here to cause trouble this time. Now he has even touched the Fu family's lair. This trip is worth it. If he kills this person again, he will overfulfill the task, so let Shen Yun face it. It's impossible for the enemy in front of him to still have a good face. The anger in Fu Wen's eyes was almost uncontrollable. I guess what I said touched his sore spot. Why don't you agree with this? Shen Yun asked back. Fu Wen, who was opposite, turned his eyes around and suppressed his anger again. I have been abroad and have seen the magnificent scenery and architecture abroad, but I have never heard of anything from the mainland. But I've heard of being poor. This is the first time I've seen a girl like you dressed in such a tacky style in my villa. Shen Yun was not angry when he heard what he said. It is a fact that he is poor. The current situation is indeed poor, but the country is working hard to develop, and the economy in the future will definitely be able to keep up. As for the clothes I was wearing, I bought them on the street near Beijing University. At that time, the boss said they were the latest fashionable clothes in the South, so the clothes were not from her, but from the South, from the Hong Kong City, who provided learning templates for the South. Fu Wen over there saw that she was not angry when she said that the mainland poor were mocking her for being stupid, and she suddenly felt that her conversation was in vain. No, isn't this girl from the mainland here to curry favor with her elder brother? Why are she talking to me with such an attitude this time? Fu Wen sensed something was wrong in his heart and looked at Shen Yun with an inquiring gaze. Shen Yun here felt that the ghost just now was still checking something not far away, and his eyes did not meet him directly. Just as if admiring the garden of the villa, he slowly shifted his gaze. Fu Wen next to him saw that although Shen Yun was dressed in earthy clothes, his temperament was a bit cold, his skin was delicate and white, and if he looked closely, he was a bit alluring, with a bookish air, which was different from the women he had found outside for his eldest brother in the past. Suddenly I feel that my previous vision has become superficial. To please my elder brother, I should find him different types instead of looking for the charming beauties I like. How did Fang Qin find you? Fu Wen thought of a way to please his elder brother, suppressed his previous unhappiness, and asked with a smile. Want to know? I want to know, go and ask her. Shen Yun was not interested in giving him an answer. She was looking at the black figure carefully this time. End of this chapter.